It says live.
All right. Making sure it's not muted. Okay, welcome to this week's episode of The Lost Confederacy. We are on week 10 or 11?
11.
All right, we are on week 11, and we are going to continue on the 1862 Homestead Act. Here on this channel, The Lost Confederacy, we deal with the original American form of government, which is Confederacy. And we'll go ahead and open up with the 12 steps. Let's see here. Can you see it?
Yes. Well, yes, I see it now.
All right. These are the 12 steps for American prisoners of war. Upon American history research, we've come to the determination on this channel that we are prisoners of war. We provide proof of claim. We don't debate. We don't argue. We just provide records, and we welcome anybody to rebuke whatever we provide proof of claim of to show anything to the contrary. So here are the 12 steps for recovery needed for this group of people. It's all mental with this group. Show me a group of people that don't know their history, and I'll show you a group of people with fucked up politics. So we'll get into step one of these steps. Number one, learn about the estate or estate your family originated from. Step two, who established that estate. Step three, what tribe and confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Step four, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend what's your position on reparations. Step five, they either support it or they don't. No support, no money. However, if they support it, then children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3. In addition, field trips to APOW landmarks in that city, county, and state are needed. Step 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Step 7, avoid spending money with any small business that doesn't hire your people. Gas stations, nail salons, subways, corner stores, etc. Step 8, all businesses need operating cash. Spend money with American businesses. Step 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. Step 10, the US government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The US dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act. The government operates off the full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American prisoners of war no longer have faith in the US government. This is why financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Step 11, teach your kids 1 hour a day about their history on this land. A, have them learn about an American inventor. B, have them know about our heroes. C, they should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. D, they should know the nation of people prior to European invasion, militarily and culturally. 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming America and attaches us to the history and laws of the US government. Every estate American prisoners of war live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media, radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, 1 fiscal quarter, will bring us together for our common cause. Today, for me, what steps out is step 10, understanding that the US government has been bankrupt since 1971. That means my entire life, I have never been paid money. So that where I am today at this moment is there's 2 groups of people under the government. There are those who operate with real money, which is gold and silver. Then there's citizens that do not operate under real money, which would be fiat currency. So if we're not getting paid any real money according to their rules to the game, which is the Constitution, then why are we choosing to be benign and neglected? No federal protection and no specific resources. At this point, it's all mental for me with this group. Is there a step that jumps out to you today?
I would say step number 11, teach your kids 1 hour a day about the history of this land. I think that's important for everyone because it starts there. We're, a little older and, going through this, there's a lot of information that we were not knowledgeable about. And so I think that if it starts with the kids, I think that it would just make things a little bit easier for them as they progress through life, just knowing the real history.
Okay. And Chief Biko, if you can check out the chat real quick.
Hey, Chief Biko.
And we're just finishing up on the 12 steps. So if you can share which step jumps out to you today.
Shoot, really step 10. I think that's probably gonna always be the one that jumps out to me. Because basically just reiterates that there is no money. What we're playing with is fiat currency. So basically equivalent to monopoly money, because we know that's not backed by anything but faith. So that's exactly what we're currently doing. Just hoping that our people finally understand that we're playing in this game. So let's learn the rules of this game, and that there is no actual constitutional money that is being paid to us or that we're paying.
Okay, I'll go ahead and pass it to you. We'll keep it flowing.
Gotcha. So next, we will have Chief Quietwater with this week's inventor.
Okay. So this week inventor, I have Elijah McCoy, who invented an automatic lubricator for steam engines. And let's see. Basically, it used steam pressure to pump oil where it's needed throughout the steam engine. He was born to parents who were enslaved in Kentucky, and they fled to Canada. So he was actually born in Canada. However, they moved back to Detroit, which is where he lived pretty much for the rest of his life. He was born May 2nd, 1844, and died in 1929. The patent number is 129843. The patent date, 7/23/1872. And that is it. And he did make several improvements on this as well, but this was the actual invention that he started off with.
Excellent, excellent. Like always, did he or does his family receive any percentage of that industry's income?
No.
Not at all. Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and continue with this week's quote from Dr. Carter G. Woodson. This week, I wanted to go with quote number 9. Negroes must become like English gentlemen who study the law of the land, not because they intend to practice the profession, but because every gentleman should know the law. In the interpretation of the law by the courts, too, all the rights of the Negroes in this country are involved, and a larger number of us must qualify for this important service. We may have too many lawyers of the wrong kind, but we have not our share of the right kind. Definitely wanted to, say that quote for this week because it definitely stood out to me. And like Dr. Carter G. Woodson said, I feel we have a lot of highly schooled individuals in certain topics that ultimately don't benefit us. We have a lot of highly schooled people who are studying the Pan-African movement, studying Africa, studying everything but what's happening here in America. And with that being said, we aren't knowledgeable about the laws of this land. kind of goes back to what I was saying in regards to 12 steps. Number 10, how many of our people don't know that there is no money anymore? Money was taken out in 1971 by the Gold Standard Act. If we don't know that, then we just literally think we're actually spending money, actually paying off debt when that's not the case. So again, just reiterating that we need to understand this law and this government's law, because we need to understand the rules of the game in order to play the game in order to ultimately get out of it. So I think that was a good quote for this week. I'll go ahead and continue with the steps and the maroon historical points, the definitions, rather, the legal definitions. Definition number 1, American, indigenous to America. Number 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number 4, prisoner of war, POW, person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, school, any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. And number 6, education, an enlightening experience. The 5 maroon historical points. 1 was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number 3, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. Number 5, maroons knew their European enemies' language, defenses, and plans. And before we jump back into the Homestead Act, definitely want to highlight some things within the Constitution. Let me see here, share my screen. And I believe we stopped off on Article 5. I think we was about to begin Article 6 in the Homestead Act. But the Constitution here, first and foremost, we're going to jump into Article 1, Section 10. And Article 1, Section 10 states, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So again, it's kind of reiterating with step 10 and why that stood out so much to me, because again, underneath this government's law, again, going back to Carter G. Woodson's quote, we need to be, educated in this government's law in order to understand what we're dealing with. But it clearly says here that anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debt. So anything other than gold and silver cannot pay off debts. So that's the first thing that always stands out in this section when you read it. But another thing that stands out, especially today, because we'll definitely touch base on it, is here it says no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. So we know that this Constitution was ratified on July 4th, 1776. That's why they always like to celebrate July 4th. So we know that this was established July 4th, 1776, and it clearly states here within their bylaws, which is the foundation of their government, that no state shall enter into any treaty, confederation, treaty, alliance, or confederation. Then why is it so hard for us to believe that the European cannot be a confederate? Because again, this predates the Civil Rebellion. Civil Rebellion, 1861, Constitution, 1776. So they had already established that the European cannot, one, make any treaty, alliance, or make a confederation, because a confederation is an American form of government. So that's why when we're reading these documents and we say, why do, you may say as the audience, why do they keep saying Civil Rebellion, Civil Rebellion? It was a civil war. No, their own documents state that it was a civil rebellion and that the Confederates were actually pretend Confederates. And it all goes back to their foundation, which is the Constitution. So I just definitely wanted to reiterate that. Anybody kind of want to build on that before we move forward to the other sections?
Yeah, yeah, I would just like to throw in one thing. Anybody that watches this channel, if you're in school and you have the opportunity to have a teacher that's teaching you history, ask them these questions. Why did Andrew Johnson, the president at that time of their government, write the Amnesty document saying there was no Civil War? And if the teacher can't answer, if he can read and comprehend, he can clearly see that. The second point is, why did Congress in Special Order number 15, the 65 Civil Rights Act?
Yes, I believe 1865 or 1866 Civil Rights Act.
Okay, so the president admitted in the Amnesty document there was no Civil War, and then Congress, a separate body politic under this government, admitted in 4 documents: Special Order number 15, the 1866 Civil Rights Act, the 1866 Indian Treaty, and now the 1862 Homestead Act. They're all admitting it was a rebellion. So you got the president and Congress both admitting there was no Civil War. Ask your teacher, why do you still call it a Civil War when your Congress and your president have both admitted in 5 documents that it wasn't?
Excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah, definitely good points from both of you. And I think that, yeah, definitely if someone younger that is still in school studying history, that would be a great debate, actually, because I'm sure that the teacher knows the truth in most cases. I'm pretty sure that the teacher that's providing the information know that a lot of this American history is really not correct and accurate in regards to how they teach it. So again, just going back to the steps and what I pointed out in regards to kids knowing this information is very important, because we only knew the Civil War. We only knew it to be a civil war, and these documents that we've read clearly shows that it was not a war. It was literally just a rebellion.
Correct. That's why it's so important for us to study the law of this land, because we can take the brainwashing or indoctrination, whatever you want to call it, from our school teachers, or we can actually read the documents in which they're interpreting in these books. So again, definitely it's always good to study the law of the land and also be your own teacher. Again, you get that's assigned to, and then you have one where you're doing your own research, and of the two, it's always the latter that's most beneficial for us. We'll skip down to Article 6, Section 2, I believe. And Article 2, Section, just actually Article 6, Paragraph 2. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. So again, here, this is clearly stating that the treaty is the supreme law of the land. But we know that a lot of these treaties are so-called treaties that were signed that we, discussed wholeheartedly and went through the whole treaties weren't valid. And if they were valid, they aren't being upheld. Because if that was the case, then there would be nothing that goes against them, since they are the supreme law of the land, according to this Constitution, which is, again, this government's foundation. But we also saw that in 1866 Indian Treaty, that the missionaries, or the church rather, superseded the treaty because they could not be excluded from the quote unquote Indian territory. So that's just another thing of showing the hypocrisy, as well as the contradiction that this government continues to display. Because again, if this is supposed to be the foundation in which they stand upon, they already don't abide by this Constitution's form of money, and they also don't abide by this Constitution's supreme law, which is the treaty. So what else do we need as Americans, as quote unquote Black people, to realize that, okay, all of this is bullshit. All of it is make believe. Why are we continue to play this game? Why are we continue to put our energy towards a system that is one, broke, and two, doesn't even abide by its own rules? So again, just things that we need to continue to think about.
Hold on 1 second, Chief Biko. Just throwing in, we read those 3 treaties in the beginning specifically for a reason, because we were showing a pattern that the United States government was not signing those treaties.
Correct.
Rogue military. So we cannot forget that. We just have to stand in our arrogance. We are understanding land on a whole nother level, right? And we have to be unapologetic on this channel. We're giving you the documents to read for yourself. This land up until 1866, every treaty was false because it was the military contracting with fake people from the land. And we really need to understand that because it's just a matter of what Chief Quietwater said last week. Get the people off your land. They don't have any document to stand on. Everybody that was forced on the Trail of Tears, you were forced by military. The government had nothing to do with that.
Right. Military occupation. And that's exactly why we, at the beginning of the channel, say, American prisoners of war, because we're under military occupation. So, everything underneath that is just a symptom of military occupation. Racism, chattel slavery, all of those are symptoms of us being military occupied. That kind of just segues us into, who is the commander-in-chief of said military. So if we look into section 2 of Article 1, it states the president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of several states. So again, short-term memory. That's one thing our people suffer from. We know last year, January 6th, we saw Europeans storming the Capitol. They call them insurrectionists. But if anybody paid attention to the hearings, and we'll make sure that we play some videos, after we finish off this Homestead Act, to make sure that we remind the people of exactly what happened. They called them insurrectionists. But the people that were there, they were clearly stating that President Trump personally contacted us. So with that being said, we understand the laws of this nation. Is clearly showing you who has the power to call personally to these people, the president, the commander-in-chief, because again, he's not only the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy, but also the militia of the several states. A lot of you all may saw Proud Boy members. That's a militia. They said, hey, President Trump contacted us personally. According to this Constitution, it looks like President Trump will be in the right or be exercising his right to actually do so. Again, President Trump has said he's acting as a wartime president for an invisible enemy. See, these words we may think just go over the head, but he's saying them for a reason so he can have absolute power in order to do so. Because if we go here to section 8 of Article 1, we're going to see exactly the powers of the Congress. But again, if the president is acting under wartime powers, then he can pretty much supersede Congress. He doesn't even have to go through Congress to actually say, hey, I'm enacting certain laws, enacting, certain military branches and things of that nature. So if we go here, it says here, we'll start at the top so we can see Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, and posts, and exercise to pay the debts and provide for common defenses and welfare of the United States, with all duties and posts and excises. Excises should or shall be uniform throughout the United States. And then it goes on the list of different powers. But if we go down here, it says to provide for the calling forth of the militia, to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections. Isn't that what they call the people who stormed the Capitol? capital insurrectionists, and repel invasions. So if we understood or understand the propaganda or the language that was being spilled at that time during January 6th, saying that it was a fraudulent election, if the president, the acting president at that time thinks it was, then wouldn't he be repelling, an invasion? Wouldn't he be suppressing an insurrection? Wouldn't he be executing the laws of the Union? So again, if we kind of get caught up in, the micro issues, but don't look at it from a holistic view. Again, we have to understand the laws of this land. That way we can understand exactly what's going on. We have to understand the pieces on this chessboard. That way we can make sure that we can remove ourselves from this chessboard. But again, just understanding exactly who has those powers and again, why they were called to the Capitol, we can clearly see it here. So the question is, was President Trump acting in his power or was it something else? Either way, we all know they're going to get a slap on the wrist. Nothing's really going to come out of it, but just for us understanding the laws of this land, this is very important for us in order to move forward.
And it's amazing how the Constitution is just out the window. Like Chief Alligator always says, there is no law. I mean, literally what happened on January the 6th. I mean, there is no, I can't even put it into words, but they're not even referencing it as what it really is. It's like they literally act like that was just, some people just broke into the Capitol. Mm-hmm. And it blows my mind that we're seeing it right here, exactly what took place, and they are just acting like it was nothing.
Correct. And then those who are uninformed would be like, well, no, they can't do it, or
right,
that wasn't supposed to be what happened. But and that's the thing, they like to contradict their own foundation because they'll pick and choose what they want to pull out of the Constitution. Well, we're going to honor this, but we're not going to honor the gold and silver and money. Right. We're going to honor this, but we're not going to honor the supreme law of the land, which is the treaty. So it's not either or, it's either you're going to honor it or you're not.
Or not.
You're not going to pick and choose, because no, that's not how the game is played. Any thoughts on that there, Chief Alligator?
I mean, both of y'all hit it. That's the main thing. That's the power of a mastermind. Napoleon Hill talked about that in Think and Grow Rich, that you get multiple minds reading one document, and then there's a consciousness that comes out of that. And so that consciousness is what we practice every Sunday, where we all are in alignment with what we're reading. The dragon is not going to eat itself. That's what you're watching with these fake hearings. The ground floor of how they set up their government is a militia. So those of us that, or if you take time and go back to our Militia Act videos on this channel, really wrap your mind around the militia is before the military. So it makes sense when you understand how they were able to spread their operation on this landmass. They're never going to incarcerate their militia because that's their first line of defense. Before they call out the National Guard, that president will make a phone call, just like Chief Biko said, to his militiamen. And I think they caught some yesterday. Maybe you can pull it up at the end of this video. They caught like 30 of them in a U-Haul truck.
What?
In Idaho. Pull it up if you can, Chief Quietwater, while we're doing this. Just pull up militiamen caught in Idaho. But the point of that being, everybody's mad that they're only getting charged with conspiracy. And so because we have short-term memory, and I'm bringing this up because you got this bullshit holiday coming up next week called Juneteenth. Y'all need to be careful when you out in society, because within the last 30 days, you've had militia attacking Buffalo and Texas, and now they got 30 of them yesterday hiding in the U-Haul. They were going to do a surprise attack in Idaho. So it sounds kind of redundant when we say you're prisoners of war, it can sound deflating mentally and emotionally and spiritually. But once you really embrace that reality, knowing the times we're in, try not to just put yourself in crowds. You might be at a park next week and this can happen.
Mm-hmm.
When you get a chance to pull it up, Chief Crywater will show it later on in the video. It's real. These people are gonna fight as their government collapses.
Correct. I believe we stopped off on section 6. I'll go ahead and pick up here. Let's see, bring this up a little bit larger. And be it further enacted that no individual shall be permitted to acquire title to more than 1/4 section under the provision of this act, and that the Commissioner of the General Land Office is hereby required to prepare and issue such rules and regulations consistent with this act, and that shall be necessary and proper to carry its provision into effect, and that the registers and receivers of the several land offices shall be entitled to receive the same compensation for any lands entered under the provision of this act that they are now entitled to receive when the same quantity of land is entered with money. So here, from the beginning, it's clearly stating that no one will be permitted to acquire the title to no more or to more than 1/4 section under this provision. So although, again, as we read in previous sections, that they may be able to claim the lands bordering the 1/4 section that they may have purchased, they won't get the title to said lands. So that's very interesting there. That they'll allow them to pretty much occupy it, but they won't give them the title to those surrounding areas outside of what they have purchased. Also looks like, again, they're going through the General Land Office. I know Chief Alligator stressed it last week, as well as Chief Quietwater. She couldn't contest to it. Nobody goes to the General Land Office to, buy real estate or homes. We all go through banks. The banking system wasn't established during this time. So again, this is going straight from the US government to its citizens. So there is no middleman that pretty much the bank would act as in current times. So that's another thing that kind of stood out to me. Let's see here, I'll continue. 1/2 to be paid by the person making the application at the time of so doing, and the other half of the issue of the certificate by the person to whom it may be issued. But this shall not be construed to enlarge the maximum of compensation now prescribed by law for any registered or receiver, provided that nothing contained in this act shall be so construed as to impair or interfere in any manner whatever with existing preemption rights, and provided further that all persons who have filed their applications for a preemption right prior to the passage of this act shall be entitled to all privileges of this act. So here it's saying that anybody who pretty much had first dibs, preemption rights, being the first ones to actually lay claim to said land. Anybody who had that prior to the enactment of this Homestead Act, that they will still have those rights and privileges. So they'll still have those first dibs on, I'm guessing, whatever land has been, again, carved out for these going to be now US citizens that they're, again, shipping over in masses from Europe. Because again, this isn't for us people, this is for the now naturalized people, which are the US citizens, to claim land or claim some land to fill up what's present day known as the United States. Provided further that no person who has served or may hereafter serve for a period of not less than 14 days in the Army or Navy of the United States, either regular or volunteer, under the laws thereof, under the existence of an actual war, domestic or foreign, shall be deprived of the benefits of this act on account of not having attained the age of 21 years. So it looks here that they will also be giving this land, or will be allowing their service members an opportunity to lay claim to this land as well. And pretty much, man, they only had to spend 14 days in the Army or Navy of the United States. And that could be either full-time or volunteer. So basically like reserve or being full-time on one of those military bases. That's very interesting there. And they don't have to be the age of 21, which we know that that was pretty much one of the stipulations in regards to the Naturalization Act, basically having to be the age of 21 to, and then having to have some other requirements in order to be deemed as an actual US citizen. But it's saying that if you actually fought to occupy this land for a minimum of 2 weeks, then you would have the right to have your state to claim land in this Homestead Act. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, some things you got to pull together on what you just read. We have to remember that Special Order number 15, they gave the Europeans that rebelled against their own government 40 acres and a mule. But at the same time, they ran them through the War Department because now they're hot. They bucked against their own government. So now we see the same US government, it needs citizens because it's in a Seminole War right now. There's a war going on in the South. So this is a marketing ploy. This is the United States government saying, hey, the people from Europe don't know that there's war going on over here. They're saying, hey, you come over here, we'll give you 80 to 160 acres of land. Hey, if you join our military, after 2 weeks, we'll give you land. So they need bodies.
Uncle Sam needs you.
Right. I just want us to understand that here's where that resentment comes in with the Europeans in the South. They only got 40 acres. These new citizens that they're recruiting, they're going to get minimum double, which is 80.
Facts.
Or they can get 160. So you can see why the South, up until this day, why they have that strong disdain against the United States government, because they got punished for rebelling, but they still got free land.
Correct.
We have to understand that as Americans, that yeah, they're not landowners, and we can see in that section that you read, they switched it to certificates, where it says, and the other half on the issue, go down a little bit, right there, yeah. So they're no longer talking titles, they're talking certificate. So they're telling them that they are now entitled to receive when the same quantity of land is entered with money. So whether you paid that $1 or $2 per acre, you can get that same amount, even if you don't have any quote unquote real money. And the other half on the issue of the certificate by the person to whom it may be issued. So you can see that the United States government is like, yeah, we'll tell you that we're giving you free acres, but we really ain't gonna give it to you. We'll give you a certificate from the land office.
We still own it.
We ain't giving you absolute title.
Correct. We still, and that it's funny, they and it's not only happens, I mean, it still happens today, just with different industries. I can tell, attest to like when you're working, if you're working at a corporate 9 to 5, whatever, and they give you benefits and say they want to give you life insurance. They're giving you a certificate. You're not the policy owner though. The policy owner is the company. So again, if we fire you, you no longer have benefits. You no longer have, those benefits. In this case,
under the guise of group insurance.
Correct. Because they're still,
and they're getting the tax benefits from that as well.
Correct. So again, if you're thinking like, oh, this doesn't happen, no, it still happens, and it happens more frequently than you think in your everyday life. So great point there, Chief.
So you're saying that if you got fired from a job, they will still keep the life insurance policy on you even after you no longer work there?
They won't keep it on you, but you no longer have life insurance. So they're giving you something that they can take back. You have no control. So in this, if we're paralleling it with this land, we'll give you the certificate, but that means we can take it back and you can be discarded at any inconvenience, basically, for us. We can do what we want to. So you have no control, like you said, you don't own this land. It's not yours. You can't make any certain changes without going through something. Let's see here. I'll pick up on section 7. And be it further enacted that the 5th section of the act entitled an act in addition to an act more effectually to provide for the punishment of certain crimes against the United States and for other purposes approved the 3rd of March in the year 1857 shall extend to all oaths, affirmations, and affidavits required or authorized by this act. Okay. If I'm not mistaken,
Go back to the 5th section real quick just to see what they're talking about.
yeah. Be it further enacted that if at any time after the filing of the affidavit as required in the 2nd section of this act and before the expiration of the 5 years after said, it shall be proven after due notice to the settler or to the satisfaction of the register of the land office that the person having filed such affidavit shall have actually changed his or her residence or abandoned the said land for more than 6 months at any time, then and in that event, the land so entered shall revert to the government. And then they say section 2.
You got a filing deadline. Basically, you have to be within that 5-year period and you can't abandon it for more than 6 months. Basically, that's a way for the government to say, if you don't adhere to these procedures, we'll take it back, which goes back to what you were saying about the life insurance. That's why they're getting a certificate. They got to dance a certain way to keep it.
Correct. And it looks like if they have any crimes against the United States as well. Okay. Section 8. And be it further enacted that nothing in this act shall be so construed as to prevent any person who has availed him or herself to the benefit of the benefits of the 1st section of this act from paying the minimum price or the price to which the same may have graduated for the quantity of land so entered at any time before the expiration of the 5 years and obtaining a patent therefore from the government, as in other cases provided by law, when making proof of settlement and cultivation as provided by existing laws granting preemption rights. So here, let me see. So nothing in this act shall pretty much go against any of the benefits laid in the 1st section of this act. Basically, that minimum price that was set, I believe it was $1.25 per acre, I want to say, $1.25 per acre. And pretty much those stipulations of having to be on that land for 5 years and have cultivated some type of improvements.
Right, but there's a catch in here because there's a lot of people that go, there's a lot of talk about land patents right now within our community. And what this shows is these people are going to get land patents. These settlers will have land patents. So it's showing that you can't really go by this government's documents when it comes to the land, because they're going to show a European got the land. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about that right now, and that's key. What just came out, obtaining a patent, therefore from the government. So if they go to the land office, whatever division of the government the land office is under, I think that would be up under. I think we mentioned it earlier, but we can see how they're overlaying the actual people on the land through their land patent office, because these people are settlers, and they said it in there.
Yeah, settlers.
That's the only thing I put out that jumped out at me.
Gotcha. And she just approved May 20th, 1862. So we can really kind of see how this would segue into that 1866 Indian Treaty, especially in regards to us knowing how many different groups of people were in that, quote unquote Indian territory.
Oh, this the end of it?
Yeah, that's the end of it right there.
Okay. So what did y'all take from it in general? What I took from this is land theft, and they're gonna hide under the federal government. Their government is giving away 160 acres to 80 acres at a time to people who could fresh off the boat. Yeah. What y'all get from this? It's basically it's a land robbery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what it is. And they're trying to make it seem like that they're giving it to them, but of course they're issuing certificates. So again, it's still some shadiness going on in regards to how they're executing and giving out the land per se.
Right. Yeah. I think we kind of even touched on it, like Chief Alligator was stating, okay, we're bringing over all these people. We still know, we're still fighting this war against the American. Now we pissed off some of our own people, the Europeans who have rebelled. So we need to make sure that we have more manpower. So again, hey, y'all come over, up to 160 acres of land, free of charge. Just have to make sure you have these requirements and you're good to go. But also, anybody who wants to, fight 14 days, you don't even have to be the age of 21. So it's like you can see the marketing tactics to make sure that they get as much manpower, because again, they're having to fight even more battles now west of the Mississippi because they ran into another set of Americans that are like, nah, we ain't going for this either. So now they having to again just recoup that manpower. So
doesn't it rhyme with what we're doing right now?
Yeah.
If you look at what's happening right now, they brought over Afghanistan people at the end of that war.
Mm-hmm.
They gave them 6 figures per head of household to come over here. They did the same thing with the Ukrainians.
Mm-hmm.
But they're going to tell prisoners of war, exercise your right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
So the war is against us. The only thing they're going to tell you is, hey, you just vote.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're giving people who aren't even citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going back to the same playbook. It's the same playbook from 1862. While they're fighting us, they're bringing over other groups of people, giving them resources.
But
and it's going to look just like this in regards to how all of this is laid out, and prisoners of war are just going to be ignored. I mean, continue to be ignored.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, we have to, vote to get our resources, or the chance to get our resources. It's not even guaranteed. So we have to vote for the chance. It's basically like we have to get a raffle ticket.
Right.
A raffle ticket that's not even a part of the goddamn wheel.
It ain't even got the numbers on the end.
Exactly. Y'all just got a sheet of paper, and this is y'all raffle ticket, but these the real raffle tickets. So we'll let them continue to think some. Yeah, we might even pick one or two out of their, collective and prop them up. You guys can be like this. But, we're not going to make it a holistic thing. We're going to make sure all of them get that. So, and that's the game that's being played on those people. No other group has to run to the polls. What other group are running to the polls to get certain rights? Them Asians ain't run to no polls to get that Asian hate bill,
right?
You know what I'm saying? No other group is making as much noise of being promoted to, saying, hey, y'all make sure y'all get out. Vote or die. All this bullshit. Come on, Diddy, what you talking about, man? We gotta do it, y'all. We gotta.
What they say is souls to the poll. But
souls to the polls.
That's a curse in itself, if you think about it. So because you have to participate, since there is no money.
Get that karmic debt.
You have to participate in the fuckery for them to fuck you.
Correct.
Like you have to acquiesce. You have to be willing.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as you get up and keep going to the 9 to 5, you're willing, and you're showing them based on your actions that you have faith in something that's benign and neglecting you.
Correct.
And
Correct.
And they'll bet on the stock market, in the futures market. They will bet that, okay, it's the treasuries and the future market. When they show the stock market going down and going up, it's really the world looking at this government saying, how long can they keep the nigga on this treadwheel?
Mm-hmm.
It all hinges on us because we're the only group that gets nothing. So as soon as we stand up, like in 2020, the stock market starts to collapse because the people are like, uh-oh, they waking up.
Let's get all our shit out of here. It ain't business no more.
Mm-hmm.
And they paused for a second, 2021.
Regrouped and
they let them outside. They still spending money. Okay, we can start investing back into this corporate. Because again, the United States is nothing but a business. So you got stakeholders and shareholders all around the world. And who was the product? The American. So it's got to do, like you said, we can't participate in our own demise. Because, I mean, shit, that's how we relieving the karmic debt off of them. They're like, y'all voting it for yourselves. Y'all
exactly.
Putting a gun to y'all head to do this. It may make
it
make it a little difficult for y'all to do stuff, but y'all, y'all participating on your own, and y'all got your own entertainers telling y'all to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's one thing, man. But I know before we closed out, I definitely wanted to highlight because it kind of just falls in alignment with what we were talking about, especially in regards to, I believe that was Article 2, Section 2, where it was stating the president's powers, as well as the pretty much what the militia is there for. I just wanted to play this that way. Again, we're not making this stuff up, people. This is strictly from the hearing, which was, 3 days ago? 3 days ago.
We're going to hear it from the rioters themselves. Without objection, I include in the record a video presentation.
What really made me want to come was the fact that, I had supported Trump all that time. I did believe, that the election was being stolen. And Trump asked us to come.
He personally asked for us to come to DC that day. And I thought, for everything he's done for us, if this is the only thing he's going to ask of me, I'll do it.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
Did you recall President Trump mentioning going to the Capitol during his speech?
Oh, yeah. So that's one of my disappointments. He said he was going to go with us, that he was going to be there.
I know why I was there, and that's because he called me there and he laid out what is happening in our government. He laid it out.
But I remember Donald Trump telling people to be there, right? I mean, to support. So you mentioned that the president asked you. Do you remember a specific message?
Basically, yeah, he asked for us to come to DC, that big things are going to happen.
What got me interested, he said, I have something very important to say on January 6th or something like that, is what got me interested to be there.
Trump has only asked me for two things. He asked me for my vote. He asked me to come on January 6th.
There it is. Water seeps to its own level. And so that's the power of what we do, man, on this channel. We're not conspiracy theorists. We're not people out to lunch. We just showed you that man has to personally call his militia and activate them, and all of them admit it. Like, because there's nothing unlawful about that. But to the uneducated people that are under this government, they're going to call it racism. They're going to call it white supremacy. It's military occupation. You're one phone call away from getting your shit pushed back. I'm gonna stop right there.
No, it just highlighted to me. And then if the viewer paid any attention, we see how certain members had 36 months of probation, while others were charged with a little more serious crimes. I can guarantee you that those people that were charged with probation were active militia. Other ones are probably just some regular civilians. I mean, I appreciate your support, but you ain't a protected class. So we gotta slap your ass with the real stuff. But for our militia folks, we got y'all. Probation. You don't have to worry about nothing. 36 months, 3 years. What? You can still travel and do whatever you want to, but we just gotta make sure we have something on the record. So again, those are just two things that really stood out to me. Any thoughts on that, Chief Whitewater?
No, you're right. Like Chief Alligator said, him calling them out is lawful. We just don't know that. You know, we're just ignorant to the fact that he did what he needed to do, what he felt was needed to do, and they acted on it under the Constitution. So, like Chief Alligator said, it's not white supremacy or anything like that. We're just ignorant to the fact of what's really going on in front of our eyes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before we close out, if you want to pull up that article, Chief Alligator stating regarding conspiracy to riot. But isn't it so funny? Isn't a Reco charge a conspiracy? Well, that's what they like to put it as. So it'll be very interesting to see how those parallel, how these two parallel each other. Because we see one clear as day, 31 people in the back of a U-Haul. I know y'all ain't up to no goddamn good, but somebody at their house, y'all just arrest them because their song lyrics that they're acting, not even acting out. They're just performing, just like an actor performing a script. What's the difference? But
you got the video? There's a video.
With this one here?
Go to YouTube. There's a video so you can actually see. Put in
I want to hear it from the riot to
put in Idaho, 31 people. There you go.
You all right?
Yep. Here you go. You got 1.6 million on that one. Yeah.
Fellas, it's time to take care.
And the only reason we're showing this is just, again, we're just reiterating military occupation. If you think it's a game and you think these people are not organized, we just want you to see this video and understand we can talk about it all day long. At some point, we're going to have to come together and start coming up with basic plans on how to protect ourselves within these cities, these counties, and these states, because these people on code. Go ahead.
And just before you say that, before we kind of play the video, it's the same outfits that the people in Philadelphia wore that got ran out by the Americans.
Correct.
And they were in Penske trucks. So they have some type of deal. And I know Penske left out, put out a message saying we have no affiliation, but it's pretty funny how it's two rental companies now that they, as far as like moving, you know, not just like a Hertz or Thrifty or anything like that.
And
just a few blocks.
One thing real quick. Yeah, right here. What we have to understand is the people that are arrested are militia. That's the ground floor. You can be a part of the military, which is what you see here dressed out. That still doesn't mean that they're not militia. And you can be police officers and still be a part of militia. So when you look at these three different entities of enforcement, what we have to understand is it's all the same. They're all militia. That's why everybody makes it in handcuffs. Nobody gets shot. You know, have to start understanding this. And when they go into these jails and these prisons, these people are militia. They're on code with each other. Stop calling it racism. Correct.
Pride Parade, a parade that drew hundreds of people to downtown Coeur d'Alene. Law enforcement says they've been tracking this group and suspects that all the individuals detained showed ties to a white nationalist organization. Coeur d'Alene police praising the actions of a quick-thinking 911 call.
I don't think this would have been as successful had we not had one extremely astute citizen who saw something that was very concerning to them and reported it to us.
Saturday afternoon, that person reporting a, quote, little army floating into the back of a U-Haul. 10 minutes later, police make a traffic stop. This video shows the moment that truck's door slides open. 31 people arrested, all with suspected ties to the white nationalist group Patriot Front.
They had shields, shin guards, and other riot gear with them, including at least one smoke grenade.
The arrests happening just blocks from North Idaho's Pride celebration, an event that organizers say drew hundreds of supporters.
We have been through so much, so much harassment and attempts to intimidate, on the psychological level. And the truth is that if you allow yourself to be intimidated, you let them win. And what we have shown today is that you will not win. Love will win.
Police now working alongside federal law enforcement to process all 31 arrests. The men representing at least 10 states, including Washington and Idaho, and as far away as Texas, South Dakota, and Virginia, all held on conspiracy to riot, a misdemeanor charge in a jail stay. Police are confident may have stopped something far worse from happening. Police are commending the quick thinking of that 911 caller. They also say they've been working with the FBI and have been monitoring various group communications ahead of this weekend's Pride event. In Seattle, Sebastian Robertson, King 5 News.
Now they're going to put a spin on it and make it about gay pride people. Right? But notice they only gave misdemeanor charges.
Right, conspiracy to riot.
Right. So whether it's the January 6th situation with probation, it's never giving you a felony taking away your right to bear arms.
Correct.
We gotta watch that. It's always a little petty ass charge. And then who's to say they don't know where the people were going.
Exactly.
But they're trying to tell you, they were finna go beat up their own that happened to be gay.
No,
come on, man. You don't know where the people
knew where they were going. And I think, like you said, if we hadn't got a phone call from a civilian, but I'm sure a lot of them people probably on that force, like you stated before, probably police officers, active military. So they're like, nah, you all be good. Just don't get, just don't raise no eyebrows. We got to call the police. But that'll be better than somebody else answering and all hell breaks loose. You'll just get a slap on the wrist, conspiracy to riot. Not know we got a whole smoke grenade in the goddamn car. Riot shield. Who knows the kind of weapons they may have had. They probably just
they ain't mentioned no weapons, knowing that they probably did have weapons. If they dressed in all of that gear, come on now.
Even at the, I think like 1 minute 30 mark, buddies getting zip tied and having a whole cheerful conversation with his best buddy while he's detained. So even things like that just show, man, it's all propaganda. We're going to let you all release as soon as we get you back to the jail there. So and that, like you said, it just raises another point. Okay, they say it was for pride, but we don't know. That could have been just something else. But it does raise the question. Okay, Juneteenth is next week, so again, be alert. May not want to be on no mass crowds and things of that nature. It's not anything to be afraid, but they made it a federal holiday for a reason.
Right.
So let's be vigilant.
Right. And appreciate them showing how they'll pull up. This goes back to 2020 when they made the fake group called Antifa. Now you understand how they get to these events. They come in U-Haul. Yeah, they just come in U-Haul, park on the back street, let them jump out, and then so they're organized. That's all. I'm not trying to put fear in anybody that watches this video. Only thing I'm saying is no one is half the battle.
Right.
So next week we'll do the Dawes Act. There's a lot of talk about that. A lot of people have been talking about the $5 Indians, but we're going to get way deeper into that act than that, and we're going to find out everything that this government put in that Dawes Act. Any closing comments from y'all?
Stay tuned.
Good class tonight.
Yep, good class. Stay tuned.
Everything